Hello everyone and welcome back to Kentucky Garden Gal. I'm Nancy and it is a rainy day and I'm actually out on my front porch. It's a little humid but nothing that's intolerable. And today we want to go over September gardening tips. And I'll tell you a little bit about what I am personally doing in my garden, and then I'll give you just some general tips in case there's things that you want to do that I'm not doing. So the first thing that when we think of September, when we get into fall, is we get to gather our seeds. We get to collect our harvest and keep that for the winter. And you know, yesterday I had just a few minutes to be out in the garden and collecting seeds, and your garden just keeps giving back. It is so wonderful to know that you can collect these seeds, you can plant them or you can share them with friends or family, and then you have all of these flowers for next year. So this is a really great time, and if you maybe don't have some of the flowers that I'm going to talk about, maybe a friend does. You know, check around and see who has what, and then ask, hey, can I have some seeds? Can I have a cutting? You know, just whatever you would want to have in your garden for next year. So September is the best time to start planning for next year's garden. Now, one of the things that I talk about all the time is your soil. And September is a wonderful month to add compost and amend your soil. Now, that also includes your pots. My daughter and I were talking recently, and she said, you know, my plants just didn't do very well. She does container gardening, and she said, I bet that soil's 4 years old. It doesn't matter how old the soil is. Unless you have some type of infestation of bugs or something like that, you don't need to get rid of your soil. You just need to amend it. And by amending, I am talking about basically adding compost, adding things that enrich the soil. And the great thing about that is right now, most everything is on sale. So if you don't have a good source to go and maybe buy your compost by truckload or trailer load, you know, go to the gardening centers and look for anything that has worm castings, anything that, and it'll usually say that on the bag. Pick you up a bag, you know, put that in your soil, and then just keep adding the good, rich compost to your existing soil. So one of the things that I'm doing this year, and I have literally worked on this all year long, I decided that I had 3 areas in my front yard that I wanted to add David Austin roses that were climbing. And I am telling you, getting your hands on a David Austin rose is not an easy task. They are beautiful roses. If you follow me on my Facebook page, I post tons of pictures of the David Austin roses, but they are extremely hard to actually purchase. You can order a catalog, you can go online, but everything is out of stock. I've signed up for emails, and I finally got to the point where I found another reputable company where I ordered roses from. So right now I am preparing the beds for 7 roses, and I'll actually do a separate video when the roses get here. And a lot of things that I'm going to talk about in this video today will actually be a full video where I will go in and show you and explain it more. Now is also a good time. You're going to start seeing ads for tulips. So if you want tulips this spring, you need to find where you're going to buy them, get your order in, and now you don't have to have them planted until October, but you probably want to be finding your source right now, wherever you want to buy yours from. If you want to do it in the container, if you want to do it in the ground, however you want to do it, now is the time to start looking for your spring bulbs. Let's see, you want to sow your lettuces, your carrots, your beets, your Swiss chard, and your kale. Now is the time to get that in the ground. Another thing that you want to do is start rounding up your house plants and getting those ready to come back in. I really watch the temperatures, and when it's going to be 60 degrees at night, when it starts getting into the 60s, that's when I bring my houseplants in, especially tropicals. If you have things like plumeria, night blooming cereus, things like that aren't native to where we live, so we usually have them in pots, and we have to give them extra attention. You want to make sure that you have a place for those in the winter. Okay, now is a great time to divide up your tulips, not your tulips, your hostas, your daylilies. If your hostas are looking like mine, they're looking pretty sad. So if you have any that need to be split, if they've just gotten a little bit too big for the space, now's a great time to get those dug up and go ahead and plant those where you want them. Let's see, you can also plant your onions and your garlic for next year. And the reason I'm laughing, I'm sitting here and Lucy is at the window, and she is wanting out here so bad. She can't stand it. I wish you could see her. She is so funny. This is also a great time to prune and plant your evergreens. And I have been walking around my garden and noticing that my evergreens, they've suffered between the flash freeze that we had last December and just trying to rebound. They're alive, but they don't look their best. So one of the things that I'm going to do is buy a special fertilizer to go around them, and hopefully with that extra boost, and you can just go to any gardening center and look, and usually I'm going to buy whatever's on sale that will work. But I know that Espoma has a lot of like rose tone, evergreen tone, things like that, and that's what I'm going to look for. And I'm just going to give all of my evergreens a really good boost, and then there's a couple that I need to trim up. All right, so we want to take cuttings from tender herbaceous plants. Now, what is a herbaceous plant? By definition, a herbaceous plant has non-woody stems that reach their full length and produce flowers in 1 year, and then will come back the next year. So in that category, and these are things that you can take and you can stick in water and put in a windowsill. Here's a list of things that you can take cuttings from. And like I said, if you don't have them in your own garden, find a friend that has them in their garden and ask if you can just come and get a few stems. So it would include a lot of herbs: rosemary, oregano, sage, lavender, basil, thyme, bay laurel, salvias, dahlias, cannas, geraniums, caladiums, begonias, foxglove, yarrow, hibiscus, delphiniums, and lantana. Basically, that's free plants. If you have those or know of someone who has those and you can get a cutting, you take those, you strip some leaves off of the bottom stems, put those in water. You want to keep your water changed out, and then you've got plants next year for your garden, and they're free. And I mean, that's a substantial savings. And that is how I have built my garden over the year, is a lot of pass along plants, dividing my perennials, starting the herbaceous plants like I just went over. And another way, we're going to be doing this a little bit later on, but you do need to be gathering your seeds. So many plants we can sow in the wintertime, and it's a lot of biannuals and maybe plants that need to stratify. But I found a lady, her name is Karen, and she goes by CD Hollow on social media. She has beautiful poppies, and in fact, I did a video where I unboxed some of her seeds that I ordered from her, and then she tells us how to sow those. So coming up in October and November, I plant a ton of seeds. Now, you have to have your seeds in order to be able to plant them. So if you don't have those seeds, you want to go ahead and be finding a source of those. And let's see, I think that is all that I have. But like I said, many of the things that I have mentioned here, I will actually do a full video on. I want to do a video on planting the roses, which is preparing the soil for that and putting in the right things that my roses will need to have the best life possible. Continue to work on your weeds. You know, weeds are spread by air, from the birds, and then from seed. So when you see a weed that has a seed head on it, you really want to get that out of your garden. And then the more flowers, the more tightly compacted your plants are. And if you will follow up with mulch, that's really going to help alleviate your weeds. Now, do I think that you can have a totally weed-free garden? I don't think I ever will, because I try to do as much natural gardening and organic gardening as possible. Now, if I have something terrible and I've tried all the organic methods, I'm not above. I do have Roundup, because I do have places that it makes more sense to use it, but I'm very careful about how I apply it, and we'll talk about all of that. And then, you know, this is also a wonderful time that you can plan next year's garden. And one of the things that I want to try, and I know I've said this many, many times, but my garden is trial and error. That's just how I learn. I can research, I can watch other YouTube videos, I'm constantly reading on gardening, but until I grow it in my own garden, and sometimes I have to move it 2 or 3 places to find its happy spot. But until I actually grow it, that's how I feel like I can talk about a plant or a shrub or a tree. So if you don't grow it, you don't know it. And my garden is trial and error. So I went down a rabbit hole there, and I apologize. One of the things that I plan to do beginning in January, I want to start treating my entire garden. I'll do it by sections with something like neem oil that just helps with a lot of the pests and bugs that we see in our gardens just reoccurring every single year. And if I can do something, I may not totally ever get rid of certain things because I live in the city, and you know, everybody around me would have to do the same thing. But if I can slow these things down where I'm not coming out and seeing so many bug bites on my leaves, that's really something that I paid attention to this year. Plant health. You know, if we want to have the healthiest plant we can grow. And that's going to be with the good, rich soil, making sure that we keep as many pests and bugs off of it as possible, and then making sure that it gets the right amount of watering. So those three things, if we can kind of keep those in the back of our head, and if we can get ahead of those things instead of we're just always out there combating things that naturally happens in a garden. So that's something that I want to try this year, and you know, it may be 2 or 3 years before we notice a difference. But I do think I've been watching so many other gardeners and listening to what they're doing, and I'm convinced that's something that I need to get into the habit, and that's what it is. It's just a habit of making sure that we do routine maintenance. So I hope that this video has been helpful to you. I hope that you're encouraged. Most of all, I hope that you're enjoying your garden, that you're going out and you can just collect seeds. And you know, I have a place where I take all of my seeds to, and the table is full. And I just look at that and I'm so happy to see all these free seeds. Now, am I buying seeds like crazy? Yes, I am, because even though I have a lot of things in my garden, there's more things that I want to grow. And that's the exciting part about gardening, is that there's always something to learn. So I hope this video has encouraged you. I hope that it renews your spirit, and I hope that you have a great week. And I will see you this Wednesday. I have a super fun video for Walkabout Wednesday. I haven't told anybody about this one because it's so special. So make sure that you check back in on Wednesday, and that video will be out. So thanks so much, and y'all have a great day.